Hello everyone and welcome back to another video brought to you by SeniorCatWellness.com. As the title suggests, today we'll be talking about those wet feline noses. Is a wet nose healthy and normal? Is too much of a wet nose a sign of a health concern? What about a dry nose? Is that bad? In this material, we'll attempt to crack the code. While longtime cat owners likely know this topic all too well, some new owners and just some newer feline enthusiasts could be very much curious as to what the wet nose truly means. After all, if any one of us had a wet nose, we'd be grabbing a Kleenex for a quick sneeze. Before we tackle your questions today with respect to this topic, let's quickly take a look at this important subject overview. It's normal for cats to have wet noses. Most of the wet stuff on your cat's nose is just sweat. Cats cannot sweat through their body. It may be excess drainage of tears from the cat's lower tear ducts. Cats use this as a way to balance their temperature and stay healthy. It's not a healthy sign if your cat's nose is dripping wet or very runny, as this is indicative of a nasal illness or infection. A foreign object inside the nasal passage can also be an explanation. So, it's pretty basic. While some feline topics are rather complex, this one is a bit easier, and by and large, what you feel in respect to your cat's nose is more or less how it is. Wet nose is normal. Sloppy nose, especially over the course of a few days or a few hours, yeah, that could be a sign of a respiratory issue, what we would consider to be a bad cold or some type of infection. Of course, and we will explore this portion of the topic a bit later, but the sloppy nose is usually accompanied by a series of other symptoms. So, don't make the final verdict just on the nose alone. If the sloppy nose is due to an illness, other signs will appear. And I mentioned dry nose a bit earlier. Is that bad? Not really. At least not a one off occasion, so to speak. However, if your cat does have a dry nose for several days, this could be a sign of dehydration or illness. Here again, if illness is the cause of your cat's dry nose, other symptoms will develop. Now that we've supplied our foundation, let's begin. It's all about the nose, so let's see where it takes us. We've determined that a wet nose is normal and a good sign in terms of positive health. But why is the nose so cold, and what's all that liquid about if it's not snot, then what is it? Well, as we mentioned, sweat is one possibility, the most likely in many cases, and fluid drainage from the lower tear ducts is the other possibility. Because cats are unable to sweat in the same way that us humans do, cats only have a few locations that house sweat glands. The nose is one. Other areas include the mouth, tongue, and paw pads. Cats depend on sweating through the nose to regulate body temperature. When the moisture, the stuff that we feel, evaporates, it serves to cool down the rest of your cat's body. And yes, some feline breeds will produce a little more nose sweat than others. In respect to tear ducts, drainage of fluid from the eyes can accumulate on your cat's nose. The drainage is the byproduct of fluid that serves to keep your cat's eyes lubricated and protected from outside irritants. Do you want a little more proof that nose moisture could be from those tears? Have you ever seen what looks like stained fur coming down from each of your cat's eyes? Like your cat has been crying. This fluid is from the eyes that has dripped down and has essentially dried. As we have noted thus far, a wet nose is good. It's a positive sign of good health. Temperature regulation is indeed regulating, and all is well. And yes, the coldness of it all is very much natural. That's the way it's supposed to be. As long as the nose moisture isn't sloppy or dripping, everything is just fine. We mentioned earlier that some negative signs can accompany both sloppy nose and dry nose. This is actually good for you, believe it or not, as an owner. This way you won't have to play the true guessing game. It's fair to say that many folks have heard that a cold wet nose is good, but they're a bit unsure as to what a super wet nose means and what a dry nose means. This can cause a lot of worry. In fact, I used to be one of those cat owners many moons ago, one of those worry warts. Both dripping and dryness can be a sign of a health issue, some minor in nature, some a bit more concerning and a bit major at times. Infection in the nasal passage is the most obvious, infectious agents and bacteria. This is just like a person. What are the reasons that you could have a runny nose? It could be a bad cold, but it could also be an issue in another part of the body altogether. If your cat has what we have referred to as a dripping or sloppy nose, other symptoms can include sneezing and eye discharge. Lethargy and fever can also be present. Your cat's nose should be wet, but it won't be that way all the time, each and every day. So much depends on environmental conditions. This does not mean your cat, however, is ill. The time of day and the activities that your feline has engaged in can play a large role, and here is just one example. If your cat has been basking in the sun for several hours working on that tan, you can expect to feel a bit of a dry nose. As we noted in our intro, it's all about how long the nose has been dry. Similar to the sloppy and dripping nose, other symptoms will be in play. If your cat has a dry nose and is lethargic, refusing to eat, has dry gums, or even cracks on the nose, then you should seek immediate medical attention for your feline. The same is true for hyper wet nose situations that we have detailed. External symptoms, while unfortunate, can actually be a positive thing for you as an owner. It's all about the collective. If your cat is sick, other symptoms will exist that you can see. This can enable you to become proactive should a truly negative situation arise. As a take home message, don't get too caught up in the whole wet or dry nose conversation. Before you know it, you'll be touching your cat's nose every 2 hours just to check, especially if you're a nervous and novice owner. You'll make yourself anxious. It's best to just watch your cat's behavior. Over time, you'll know what normal looks like. If something occurs where things are a bit off, especially over the course of 24 to 48 hours, allow that to be the signal. Concern yourself with the collective rather than what your cat's nose does or does not feel like. In respect to this topic that we have detailed in today's video, yes, it is indeed 100% normal for your cat to have a cold, wet nose. This is a sign of positive health. And unless your feline is showing symptoms of unwellness, you're good to go. Be happy, don't stress, and let the purr times roll. And on that note, that will conclude things for the video portion of this material. However, if you'd wish to take an even deeper dive into this very popular topic, we invite you to head on over to seniorcatwellness.com at the conclusion of this video. There you will find a full-length and highly detailed article. And believe me when I tell you, we have left no stone unturned. Wet nose, dry nose, we've covered it all. So if you'd like to know more, we have got you covered. Are you currently watching us off-site? If so, please click the initial link in the description box below. Said link will take you to the article in question. And until our paths cross again, and I certainly hope they do, we'd like to thank you once again for joining us today. Please have a wonderful day. All the best to you and yours, and we will talk to you later.